if I'm wanting to lay out an actual photo, one of you guys was saying about basics forms and things like that. The way I would go about that is not using background image, but rather using a plane with a texture. So if we go back to our, we're going to go this photo of the lounge, for instance. So I'm just in Windows Explorer here. What I'm going to do is go to Properties, go to Details, and I'm just going to note down how many pixels by how many pixels. So in this case, our dimension is 4,352 pixels by 3,264. Now, what I'm wanting to do is be able to put that photo in without it being squashed and distorted into a strange distortion. I'm actually wanting to put it in as it is. So what I do is I actually put in a plane, and I start with the bottom left-hand corner, and I go across the bottom, and we're going to go 1 millimeter equals 1 pixel. So I'm going 4,352 across. Then I'm going to go 3,264 up. And then I can just control and pick, and I've got my rectangle of the appropriate proportions that it match exactly to my photo. Then what I'm going to do is go to Render, and under Ray Trace, I'm going to go change material properties. Up comes this strange looking dialog. What we're wanting to do is do a texture map, and it's going to be color. I'm going to come back and select the image in a minute, but I'm going to move on and go to whether I want it world relative or plane relative. So world relative means that it starts laying it out from 0, 0, 0, which has nothing to do with my plane. I want it plane relative. I can actually rotate it on the plane if I want to. And then I want to specify the size of it. So in this case, what I'm wanting to do is actually go relative X, relative Y. And I'm going to go initial X and initial Y. I'm going to start at the bottom corner at 0, 0. But the final X and the final Y is actually how many times is it going to repeat in those directions. So if I go 1 and 1, I then go pick my photo, which is going to be in Projects, Call, Photos, and it was
number 4.
It was Lounge 4. Go Open. And then I go OK and apply it to that plane. And I can't see anything. Why can't I see anything? Because our view is still in wireframe. I need to change my view type up to textured. There we go. In comes your photo. Now, unlike a background image, you can actually just, because it's a plane, you can just pick it up and move it. So if I wanted to actually do an array of several photos, I can go copy, across, down, and typically you find your camera always outputs the same size photos. So once you've got one of these set up, it's quite quick to be able to just then go material change, copy this, and then just go and pick the other photos off your list. And we've got a problem with it. I reckon that's that lagging that's going on, because I think it's because of the recording going on in the background It's giving me a hard time because normally this just allows you to do the change.
Well, it's got the path wrong.
Yeah, it's got the path very wrong. Copy, what's that one say? Yeah, so it's even screwed up that path. Very odd. It's only because I'm sitting here in front of all you guys, isn't it? So lounge 4, open, okay, and apply it to that one. Just make sure everything's deselected. So I can pre-select and go next one. Okay, and okay. No, it's fairly unhappy about that. I must say I haven't seen it do that. So the other advantage in putting the photo on a plane is, I'll just take you through that. I won't bother with trying to do multiples. Let's just go a different one. Lounge, open, okay, and pop him on here. See if that fixes it. Yeah, so that's doing all of them the same. Weird. So one of the other advantages, obviously, of having your, let me just, if it will let me delete something, is obviously now, while I set the size 1 pixel equals 1 millimeter, that's only just to get in that aspect ratio set up correctly. So if I actually have my site in here that's 21 meters by 18 meters, let's say, just turn on the line work and everything. So let's say I've got my site in here and I don't want to be working with the photo at that size in relation to my drawing. I want a bigger photo. Of course, I can just go scale and scale this to, you know, twice the size that it currently is. I can pick it up, I can move it around. So just pick it and move it, put it anywhere I like, draw my, you know, draw an arrow from it to the drawing item. And obviously if I change my plot scale, it's going to change. It's going to be that fixed size in relation to the plot scale. So if I put I'm going to have one more crack at going copy, putting another one over this side, and perhaps putting an arrow in from here. Save, pre-select, right click, change, brings up the plane change dialog, doesn't bring up the rendering settings. What I'm wanting is the rendering settings, and then to pick a different image. Now I'm just going to wait and see whether the preview will come up.
I think it's because you're not going through to the path. If you click projects and go back to it, it might get it.
Go up.
Click the projects library, not...
Projects library, you reckon?
Yeah, I've found the same thing with symbols sometimes.
Yep. So at least I'm getting the preview up now. So open, yeah, okay. Let's see if it will happily put that onto this one over here and not onto that one over there. Got a sneaking suspicion those photos might be very, very large photos as well. I'm pretty certain I took them. Yeah, so that crashed that again. So it's not very promising, is it?
It's probably a combination of huge photos and the huge lag from Zoom.
Yes, and the long path names potentially. I don't know. File.
Yeah, don't think they're quite that longer than the limit.
Now that's interesting that I've come back in there now and it's lost change. So that's even knowing I saved that. So that's very, and yes, it lost my my menu update as well because I didn't exit and come back in after I changed my menu. So that
Go off the side of the bar before you click it.
yes, there's obviously running Zoom.
Probably because it's in recording mode.
Yeah, running Zoom in recording mode seems to be creating some quite interesting issues.
I wonder if you added a second computer just to do the recording that just recorded it.
Yeah, the other option is you can record into the cloud rather than to the local machine. So that could be another option. I'll show you. So while we're in here, might as well use some point to the fact that we're going around in circles here. Yeah, this is really weird. I've never ever seen it causing both planes to both have the same thing.
Yeah, maybe don't copy the plane.
Yeah, I'll just whack in a plane that's. So what's that?
That's really weird. Oh, are you changing? You're changing the defaults. I bet you're using the wrong button on your.
This is back to front to what I normally have because this is not my normal bar.
Yeah.
That would probably not help. So here there's a default for planes that haven't been assigned with an image, and this one's for changing images on planes independently to each other. So if I go, okay, and apply that to that, there we go. We've got one on one and one on the other. Yay. So obviously this is a different use is, you know, if I'm using for materials and I want to point to different things of different materials or something like that, that would be another way of using it. Now the change, get the right one this time. I can go copy, select this. Now, if I go, my final X is 2 and my final Y is 2, that'll then repeat it twice in the X and twice in the Y. So that's one set of settings for how to get that to repeat the certain amount of times that you want. So I'm going to actually try and change that to something that becomes a little bit more blatant. So we'll just go back to projects, see if I get a better, see whether I can prove myself as being insane. Keep doing the same thing over and over and get a different result. So that has come in nicely there. So with the, so those settings on this now is 1 and 1. So if I was to take this plane and stretch it, it will actually stretch the photo to match 1 and 1.
Oh, yeah.
So I can actually skew it and pull it around and lose its aspect ratio in doing it. So that's where I was saying if you do the number of pixels across versus the number of pixels up, you get the actual right aspect ratio for that image. Now, if I actually go in here, rather than going relative XY, I can go absolute XY, and I can set a width and a height. So in the case of my photo, if I go 4,000, I actually don't know whether this is right for this photo, but I'm just going to use the number of pixels from the other photo and go okay. Strange.
It's because you didn't copy the properties first.
Is that what I did?
Yeah.
I am really having a bad night tonight. Sorry, guys. Let's go back. Photo. I'm going to go front. While I'm here, I could actually go right click. Oh, this is really challenging the system. Right click and go properties and jump into details. There we go. This particular one is 2,343 by 1455. So I can go okay, I can go open, and I can actually set 2,343 by 1455 and go okay and apply it to that plane. And that's repeated it multiple times based on, I set it to the actual size, and the plane's got nothing to do with that size. So that means when I change the size of the plane by stretching it, for instance, it doesn't do anything to the image except for how many times can it repeat, so that it's fixed the size of the image. If I go copy, select it, it's all correct. So if I go to relative XY and I go 1 and 1, it will now stretch it and distort it 1 by 1 in that there. If I go copy, select, and go 2 by 2, you get the idea. I don't even have to go 2 by 2. I can go copy, select the image. I can go X is across 2. Now in this case, I want to cross 1 and up 2. I can do that. So they're the two main ways of doing it: is relative XY, absolute XY. If I do that, that's going to be tiny, tiny, tiny. Don't want to do that. I can go 2,000 by 2,000. That'll make it a square. I didn't do copy. Absolute XY 2,000, 2,000. So that'll make the actual image a square and then repeat it however many times fits onto the plane at 2,000. So just depending on what you want to do. If it's a photo, you usually only want 1 by 1 and you want to keep the aspect ratio. So the best way to do that would be the relative XY, 1 and 1, and then having your actual rectangle the right aspect to match. And the easiest way to do that is start with it as 1 millimeter equals 1 pixel across and up, and then enlarge or reduce your plane to what size you want it to be in relation to your drawing. That looks terrible. Let's stretch. Stretch him down so he looks somewhat like a normal photo. And I should be able to go copy, pop him there, go change, copy this one, select a different photo. In this case, we're going to go the deck out the deck, open, go okay. Now, that has lost its path because it's gone to texture. I go copy, project. So just make sure you go to project first, even if it comes up in the right folder. It's automatically putting in the texture path. And go, okay. So this is a really good example here when it comes in. So in this case, we can rotate, if we rotate the plane.
Or rotate the material.
If I rotate the plane, it rotates with it. Or I can rotate the material on the plane, which I can do by going copy and then rotating it using here and go 90, okay. And that doesn't look like it makes a lot of sense. Relative X,
Copy.
Copy, yes. What have we got here? Relative X, relative Y, rotation 90. That should have made a lot more sense than that. So obviously you sort of want to give it a head start by doing something that is quite logical to what you're trying to achieve rather than just randomly.
Something's gone wrong with that.
Yeah, and I think that will be because of the rotation. Copy that. Absolute relative X, relative Y. It's going back to naught. And the easiest way is to rotate your plane, which you can do to line her up. That making sense, guys? Or have I completely confuddled you?
Gone a little bit quick for me.
A little bit quick?
Yeah, but that's all right. That's all right. But we'll review the video when it comes.
Yeah. So in this case, I go, oh, look, my photo's too small. What I would do is I would go scale and I'd go, let's make the photo 3 times bigger. And, you know, that's more the size of the photo I want in relation to the drawing. And then I'm going to put a plot boundary on this. So if I go to plot boundary, put it right around the whole lot. I'm then going to go new drawing sheet. Jump back over here.
Can't you just drag it onto new?
I think you can, yes. Yeah, okay. Pop it in here. Now, obviously, in your plotting boundary, you need to go
Change.
You need to go change, and you need to make sure that you're in textured view, and that your line work's on if you want to see your line work, and that your line work weighting is on. Obviously, you can fix your line color to a fixed line color, or you can set it to grayscale, and that's hidden lines showing up. So in this case, we'll just go grayscale. If you go grayscale, you're going to end up with grayscale photos in here. So yeah, if it's not coming up, you know, it's coming up like that, it's line work and stuff, you're going, well, that's not what I wanted. That's where your problem is, that you just need to make sure you come up to texture, turn off your grayscale, switch it on, and you're all good to print.
What I do is I've got larger properties around where we are.
Yep.
I just do a snap of the title plan.
Oh yes.
And snap that on my drawing and get an approximate one, and then you can read as you lay it out, rather than going back over, referring back to the title plan all the time. So it's on your drawing as well. And then then you got half a chance of getting it right if it's all over the place. Some of them might have 30 or 40 different directions and distances.
Yeah. So you don't have a second screen?
No, I don't. No. Well, that's the other way of doing it. Yeah. But
so
this is
having it on your second screen is obviously the logical thing. But let's say I wanted to put this in on my drawing without redrawing it. Obviously, what I'd do is I'd come in here. I'd make this as big to my screen as I could. Given that it's a PDF, I would then bring up Windows snipping tool.
Yep.
So over on the right-hand side of your Windows toolbar, after you've used the snip and sketch, there's you can go to your notifications. You can go in there, click on it, and bring it up into snip and sketch this way, or you can open snip and sketch properly first. Let's go save. I'm going to chuck that into our project samples and go title, jump into Windows Explorer, find that particular image that I just saved, which is in samples, go to title, right click and go to properties, select the details tab. So in this case, this is really quite low resolution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my plane. I'm wanting it, in this case, 993, because how many pixels wide it is, by 706 pixels high. Press down my control, get digital snapping and left click, right click. Do I want another loop? No. I then go change material properties, and I'm going to select project sample title. It's the right path. I'm going plane relative, XY, not. That all should be all well and good. Right click. I need to come over and turn on textured view. There's my little somewhat low res title. And I can just pop a plot boundary on that and whack it into my drawing sheet that way. Or it is just a plane with a texture on it. So I can actually go, I prefer it on my ground floor view. I can go show and turn it to texture and pop it over on this other view. I can turn the boundary on and off if I don't want to see that. And if I decide I want it bigger, I can go scale. And we're going to make it 3 times the size. And even if I wanted to, I could measure it and then scale it relative to, so my measurement there is 601.
That's because you've scaled it 3 times bigger.
Yeah, but it's 601 and I want it to be 211080. So I can actually go bring up my calculator, obviously just calculate my scale factor of, it's currently, so I want 21,180 out of 601. There's my scale factor. I can just highlight, copy, cancel. I can then go select, scale, highlight, right click and paste. Highlight, right click and paste. Z I don't need to change. I now have my title in there and it is actually to scale. So now I can actually pop a plot boundary on that and stick it on my drawing sheet off to the side or something. So that's the real advantage in having on a plane, is being able to actually scale it up and down in size which you can't do with a background image, to actually make something to a certain scale.
And just be able to move it around easy.
Yeah, and pick it up and move it around, which you can't do with a background image. But when it's a plane, when it's a texture on a plane, you can't calibrate it like what we did with to the title boundary and stretch it and skew it out of shape. When it's a texture on a plane, you have to be in textured view. When it's a background image, you can be in wireframe. So that's why there's two different sets of tools, is for two different sets of different ways of doing stuff. Saying it's really good for putting his energy rating basic stuff without having to retype it. With my color schedules, that's another spot where I use it. So colors and materials, I've actually got a standard color schedule set up. I can just whack in, and so these are all textured planes. If you zoom in, that's render, that's a brick, corrugated iron, tiles. And so I lay out a color schedule like that, so I can show this is how it looks on the elevation, and it's annotated at brick 1, and this is what the actual selection of the material will be. And then I can whack that onto my elevation sheet and give them, you know, a color and materials schedule without so I can still have my elevations all in black and white, but then it translates this is what it looks like on the drawing. This is what it's going to be in real life. You know, this particular job has a different brick. I can just go change material, copy. There's my brick sample, and I can just jump over, and I've got a library of textures in bricks. And I can go, actually the client wants something more like this for their bricks. Now, one of the things with bricks is obviously if you've got a sample like this versus a sample like that, it's going to come out a different size. Copy that. So we're going to go grey blend. So it is, the path is bricks, and I'm going to go with brown. Okay, lovely. So in here, we just want to go BRICKS/. Doesn't matter which way that particular slash goes. And there we go. And then if I go, well, that looks fine in this particular case, but if I said it doesn't look fine, I can change the size of my bricks by just going, oh, well, let's go 2,000, and half of that is 1,700. Okay, and apply it again, and then my bricks are a bit smaller.